In this video, I will give you an overview on what's the consonant phonetic system. I would like to introduce them by their manner of articulation. First, we have the stop sounds. In English, we currently have 6 stop sounds, which are the P, the B, the T, the D, the K, and the G. Stop sounds are usually known by having airflow in the mouth, which is first blocked and then it is released. We will begin by the first set of consonants, which would be the P and the B. The P sound would be pronounced as P, P, and as you saw, both of my lips are touching when pronouncing the sound. P, P. So this would be considered a bilabial sound. And you cannot feel any vibration here on your neck or here next to your lobe, so the voicing would be a voiceless sound. An initial word beginning with the P sound would be pig, pig. A middle word would be apartment, apartment. And a final word would be map, map. Now, for the B sound, it will be pronounced as B, B. And as you saw, this is also touching both of my lips, so it is also a bilabial sound. But in this case, it is a voiced consonant. Why? Because you're producing the sound using your vocal cords. And a middle word beginning with the B sound would be bed, bed. A middle word would be baby, baby. And a final word would be crab, crab. Now, for the second set of stop consonants, we have the T and the D. The T sound would be pronounced as T, T. And this consonant is a voiceless sound because you cannot feel vibration if you produce the sound, and this would be a alveolar sound because the tip of your tongue will be touching your alveolar ridge as T, T. An initial word beginning with the T sound would be time, time. A middle word would be stop, stop. And a final word would be meet, meet. Now, for the D sound, this one, the D, D. As you can see, the D sound, it is a voiced consonant because you use your vocal cords to produce the sound. And as you can see, the D sound, if you see carefully, the tip of your tongue will also be touching your alveolar ridge, so it is called an alveolar consonant. An initial word with the D sound would be desk, desk. A middle word would be medicine, medicine. And a final word would be bread, bread. Now, for the last set of stop consonants, we have the K and the G. For the K sound, its sound would be K, K. And this one would be a voiceless consonant because when producing a sound, you don't feel vibration here or here. And its place of articulation would be a velar sound, because the back of your tongue will be touching or will be slightly touching the back of your mouth, which would be the soft palate or the so-called velum. A middle word with the K sound would be kite, kite. A middle word would be bakery, bakery. And a final word with the K would be steak, steak. Now, for the G sound, the G, G. This one is a voiced sound because you can feel vibration using your vocal cords. And like as I mentioned before, the place of articulation of the G sound would be a velar sound because the back of your tongue is touching the back of your mouth, which is the velum. An initial word with the G sound would be game, game. A middle word would be dragon, dragon. And a final word would be frog, frog. Next, we will go through the fricatives. The fricatives are essentially when you position your tongue or your mouth in a certain position, it will block the airstream, but not completely, so that it can produce an audible friction and thus a sound. So the first set of fricative consonants, we have the F and the V sound. So the F sound, its sound is the sound. So the sound, as you saw, it is a voiceless sound since there's only air passing through, and it is a labial dental sound since, as you saw, the sound, my upper teeth is touching my bottom lip. So an initial word with this sound would be flower, flower. A middle word would be coffee, coffee. And a final word would be left, left. Now for this sound, this is the sound, the sound. So this one is a voiced one, since you can feel the vibration here in your teeth, in the bottom lip also, and here in your neck, and here next to your lobe. And its place of articulation would be also a labiodental sound, since the upper teeth is touching the bottom lip. So an initial word with this sound would be violet, violet. A middle word would be seven, seven. And a final word would be love, love. Next, in the fricatives, we have the TH sound. In English, we have two separate TH sounds, and the first is this one, which looks like a zero with a line. And this pronunciation would be the sound. So this one, as you heard, this is a voiceless sound since there is only air passing through when making this sound. So its place of articulation would be an interdental sound, since the tip of my tongue is almost in between my upper and bottom teeth. So an initial word with this sound would be thumb, thumb. A middle word would be birthday, birthday. And a final word would be cloth, cloth. Now for the second TH sound, which is this one that looks like D with a line over it, this one, the sound is the sound, the sound. So this one is considered to be the voiced version of this sound. And the place of articulation would be an interdental sound, because when you make the sound this one, the tip of my tongue is touching the upper and bottom side of my teeth. So an initial word with this sound would be that, as in that person. A middle word would be brother, brother. And a final word would be smooth, smooth. Although you might hear this sound in that word, it is not, because when pronounced quickly it will be kind of like this sound, but in reality it is this sound. Smooth, smooth. Now we will go through the next set of fricative consonants, which is the S and the Z. So in the S sound, it is pronounced as S, S, and as you can see, there is only air passing through, so it is a voiceless sound. And its place of articulation would be an alveolar sound, because as you can see, the sound, the tip of my tongue is touching almost at the top of the alveolar ridge. So an initial word with this sound would be six, six. A middle word would be insect, insect. And a final word would be ice, ice. Now for the second letter, we have the Z sound, which is pronounced as Z, Z. And this sound is a voiced consonant, because as you can see, the Z sound is kind of like a bee when it's buzzing, buzzing. It is kind of when like a bee is buzzing, so it is a voiced consonant. So this sound is also an alveolar sound, because the tip of your tongue is touching the alveolar ridge. So a middle word with the Z sound would be zebra, zebra. A middle word would be lizard, lizard. And a final word would be nose, nose. Next, in the fricatives, we have the sh sound. The sh sound, it is an equivalent of the sh in English. And this consonant sound specifically, it is a voiceless sound, since like the S, there is only air passing through your mouth, so you cannot feel any vibration whatsoever, so it is a voiceless consonant. And its place of articulation would be a post-alveolar sound. A post-alveolar sound, it is when your tongue or the tip of your tongue will be touching not your alveolar ridge but the back of the alveolar ridge. So this would be considered a post-alveolar sound. An initial word with the sh sound would be shoulder, shoulder. A middle word would be fashion, fashion. And a final word would be trash, trash. Now, for the second consonant, we have here this Z, which is also called the tailed Z, and it is pronounced as Z, Z. And this sound in particular will be found in several words such as vision, vision, leisure, or television. Now, for this consonant, there is voicing going on here. If you do so, like z, z. Now, this is also a post-alveolar sound, since, like I have explained, the tip of your tongue or your front tongue will be touching the back of your alveolar ridge. Now, for an initial word beginning with this sound would be genre, genre. A middle word would be television, television. And a final word would be massage, massage. Now, in the last of the fricative consonants, we have the H sound, which is pronounced as and this sound, it is a voiceless one because you cannot feel any vibration whatsoever here or here. If you want more explanation, I can tell you that there is motion going on in your vocal cords, but there is still no sound. It means that there is not enough constriction to make or produce friction. So that's why there is no vibration when producing this sound. Now, before I continue, I would like to clarify that in the H sound, there is actually two letters. First, there is the H that has the sound, but there is one that is the silent H. So, for initial word, we have the hug, hug word. For initial word with the silent H would be hour, hour. For middle word, there would be forehead, forehead. And a middle word with the silent H would be ghost, ghost. The final word with the H sound, in English there is no sound with this H sound at the end, so we will not have any word with that sound. But if we are to have a sound with the silent H, would be the word Hannah, Hannah. But like I mentioned, this is silent letter, so there is no sound going on. Now we will move on to the affricate sounds. For the affricate sounds, we have the sound ch, ch, which would be an equivalent of the ch in English, and this one, which is the j sound. So for the ch sound, this would be a voiceless sound, since you don't use your vocal cords in order to produce the sound. And this sound is a post-alveolar sound. Since I mentioned that the post-alveolar is a sound in which your tip of the tongue will be touching not the alveolar ridge, but the back of your alveolar ridge, it will be considered a post-alveolar sound. An initial word with the ch sound will be chicken, chicken. A middle word would be teacher, teacher, teacher. And a final word would be stretch, stretch. Now for the next sound in the affricates, we have the j sound. So for this sound, it would be a voiced one, since you can feel the vibration here and here, and this would also be a post-alveolar sound. Remember, the back of the alveolar ridge will be touched by the tip of your tongue, and an initial word with this sound would be judge, judge. A middle word would be major, major. And a final word would be edge, edge. Now we will go through the nasal consonants. The nasal consonants are the M, the N, and this particular sound, which is not the N, but it is called the ACMA sound. It looks like the N has a tail, like a small tail here, but it's actually called the ACMA sound. Now, these three nasal consonants have something in common. They are all voiced, and there is a difference between the three of them, even though they are voiced. We'll begin first by the M sound. So the M sound would be the sound, the sound. It is kind of saying like, that's delicious. And like I said, all nasal consonants are voiced, since you will feel the vibration mostly here through your nose. And like I said, the difference is that all nasals have different place of articulation. As for the M, its place of articulation would be bilabial signs, since like you have seen the sound. It is a bilabial sound. My lips are touching, so that would be it. So as for the initial word, it would be the word mom, mom. A middle word would be lemon, lemon. And a final word would be dream, dream. Now, for the second nasal consonant, we have the N sound, which would be pronounced as n, n. And this sound is voiced, like all nasal consonants. The only difference is the place of articulation, which would be an alveolar sound. Because the place of articulation, as you can see, the n sound, the tip of your tongue or the front part of the tongue will be touching your alveolar ridge. Hence, it is called an alveolar sound. Now, for an initial word beginning with the N sound would be nine, nine. A middle word would be banana, banana. And a final word would be brain, brain. Now, for the last nasal consonant, this kind of letter that looks like an N with a tail, this is called the ACMA sound. So for this letter, it will be pronounced as the sound, the sound. So like I said, all nasals are voiced, so this is a voiced consonant. Now, its place of articulation, which is different, it will be considered to be a velar sound. Why? Because even though you cannot see the difference, if you cannot see the difference, let me tell you what's the difference, like the N and between the N, if you're confused. So the N sound, I said it is an alveolar sound, the sound. You can slightly see my tongue here around the alveolar ridge, but if I make the sound of the ACMA sound, it will be something like and as you can see, my front part of the tongue is not touching the top of the mouth, of the roof of the mouth, so it is not an alveolar sound. So what type of articulation would it be? Well, this sound would be a velar sound, since the the tongue would be further back in the mouth. So for the velar sounds are basically the back of your tongue touching the soft palate, or the so-called velum. Now, for an initial word in English, we currently don't have any word that produces this sound, but we do have a middle word, which is the word length. Length. And for final word, before I clarify this, there is only like words such as regular verbs ending with the ing sound. It will be some sort of that sound with the ng or the ing. So a final word would be thing, thing. So every time you see a word that ends with ng or a verb ending with ing, now you know it will be pronounced as the agma sound, the sound. Next, we would have the liquid consonants. The liquid consonants are known by having a partial closure in your mouth, sounding often like a resonant or vowel-like consonant. So in English, we have two liquid consonants, which are the L consonant and the R consonant. So as for the L consonant, it is a voiced sound, since when producing the sound, you will feel a vibration here and here. And obviously because you will be using your vocal cords when producing the sound. So this L would be called a light L, because its place of articulation would be in a specific part. For example, some might call it an alveolar and some might call it a lateral sound. So in other words, we will call it an alveolar lateral sound. It is an alveolar because the tip of my tongue, like we said before, will be touching the roof of the mouth, which is the alveolar ridge specifically. And because when producing this sound, the airstream will be going through the sides of the tongue instead of going out directly through the mouth. And there will be another kind of L, but we're not going to explain it in this video. This L, the dark L, would be this same L, but with an accent mark, like across this L. And this one is the dark L because of its place of articulation is different from the light L, because even though the dark L will be the L sound, will be the tip of your tongue touching your velar ridge, the back of your tongue will touch your velum. So that's why the dark L is different from the light L. The back of your tongue will be touching your soft palate. Now, for an initial word beginning with L sound would be lady, lady. A middle word would be balloon, balloon. And a final word would be pencil, pencil. Now, if we want to say a word for a dark L, then we would say a final word like fall, fall. Now we will go through the R. This consonant, which is an upside down R, and is pronounced like this. R, R. And this one, you can hold it as far as maybe 3 seconds. R, R. And this one is a voiced consonant because you can feel the vibration going on through here, your vocal cords, and its place of articulation would be a retroflex, since the retroflex sounds, it's when, for example, when producing this R sound, the tongue will be curled backwards, almost touching the roof of your mouth. So that's what will be considered to be a retroflex sound. Now, for an initial word beginning with the R sound would be rise, rise. A middle word with this sound would be carrot, carrot. And a final word with the R sound would be bear, bear. Lastly, we will go through the glides. So as for the glides, they are basically semi-vowels, meaning that they kind of sound like vowel, but they behave like a consonant. So they are not the same as vowels, but semi-vowels. So as for the two glides, we have the W consonant and the J consonant, which is pronounced as a Y. So first here, the W would be pronounced as W, W. And this glide is a voiced sound since there is vibration going on here, and you can feel it here and here. And its place of articulation would be a labiovelar, since the W, as you can see, my lips are slightly touching to be considered a labia, and velar because, like I have mentioned before, the back of your tongue will be touching the back of your mouth, almost touching or directly touching your soft palate or your so-called velum. So as an initial word beginning with this sound would be wallet, wallet. And as for a medial word with this sound, we don't have any specific word that contains this letter and produces this single sound, but we do have a word that contains a combination of two letters that produce this sound, such as the word liquid, liquid. As a final word, we don't have any word that has this sound. Now we will go through the last glide consonant, which is the J sound, pronounced as a Y, the Y sound. Y, Y. And this one is also a voiced consonant, the Y. You can feel the vibration here and here. And this is considered to be a palatal sound. Since the palatals, for example, we have seen already the post-alveolar sounds, and the palatal would be after the post-alveolar sound. So for the post-alveolar, we have said that the tip of your tongue will be touching the back of your alveolar ridge. So the palatal will be like after the post-alveolar sound. So that's what's the palatal sound. It will be touching your hard palate, specifically the tip of your tongue or the front of your tongue. So as for an initial word, we have the word yellow, yellow. And as for a medial word, we could have the word beyond, beyond. And for final word, we don't have any word that could have this sound as a final word. Now that would be everything for this video. Thank you for watching and I hope you liked it. Bye.